be a time way before us, those who are watching and listening, where we were based on a caste system. So it didn't matter how much you individually made, your worth was based on who your family was. So if you were part of the rich and the kingdom, then, you know, it didn't matter how many children were part of that offspring, that was your worth. If you were part of the poor, that was your worth. Whoever your mom and daddy was, that's how the caste system works. I think that we are in a position, though, where some of that still applies, meaning we are still conditioned based on worth. Someone else can come to us and depending on their value based on society. So if a star comes up to you, an average person, and pumps you up, or all of a sudden takes that $2 t-shirt off of you or that $5 t-shirt off of you, and they put it on and they can resell that t-shirt for a whole lot more, that's changing the worth and the value. But we buy into that bull. Like, we buy into, I'm not a name brand person, and I'm not knocking, because I got some fashionistas in my life, and they pay for a name brand. I'm not a name brand girl. I shop wherever. I actually don't like to have labels and names, tags, or anything like that. If you know me personally, I rarely are you going to see who made whatever I'm wearing or who it's by. I shop at Target. I'm an online shopper, but I will go into Target. I will wear something from Target. I will go into Nordstrom's, Nordstrom's, Neiman's. I buy so I place the value on the thing. And when I put it on, because of what I feel about the self-worth, about myself, it changes that item. So I'll tell you a short story. When I first moved to Chicago, I was single, I was young, professional, I was in corporate, I was making money, I had my own apartment in the Gold Coast. I was doing it, and I would go out. Anybody who's a Chicagoan knows Dejois. Oh my gosh, Dejois was a place to be. And it was great. It was all the buppies were there, and I'm a music girl, so I love to dance. I love to listen to all the music. It never failed. I'd always meet someone, and this is a Chicago thing, but it's not just Chicago, so I'm going to take that off. But the question was always, what high school did you go to? What side of town do you live on? And then we would get to what I did, what my profession was. So I got so tired of that, because that, again, it ties to our preconditioned self-worth. That's somebody else's shit that we allow. Have a drink, have a great time. I wasn't looking to meet a soulmate, meet a husband, have kids. I need you to find out all of that in like the 30 minutes or 20 minutes that we actually engage in conversation. I started telling them what side of town I'd come up with South Side. If the question was, where do you live? I would say, with my mother and my 2 kids. The question so you could feel him, kind of his energy, back it up. If the question became, what did I do? I was a secretary. I never told them exactly where I lived, because I thought that was some bullshit. I never told them exactly what I did. And I ran this is the female game, this is the baddie game, for a long ass time. And the man who decided to still invite me out, get the number, take me out on a date, was the man that I felt was worthy of my time. Because now it's not about what I did, where I live, what I drove. It was about me. You were interested in getting to know me. So I really didn't buy into the things make me. I think a lot of it comes from my rearing, my parents, particularly my dad, continuing to perpetuate the message to us, his girls, how smart we were, how talented we were. Excuse me. My mother did not place a whole lot of value on what we looked like. I have a lot of sisters. We are of different shades. We all have different hair textures. I have some sisters who have really long hair. So hair was not a factor for me. Hair doesn't make me. My point to you today is that's what it's about. It's about standing in our own stuff, feeling good about our own stuff, stripping naked, being that authentic self, unleashing, identifying the good and the bad, realizing that you're more good than anything. We all fuck up. We all screw up. We're not perfect. You have to set that value system. So when we feel worthless, we take that someplace else, and guess what? We teach people how to treat us. They feel that energy. A really good friend of mine, my sister, I'll give her a shout out, Vicky, Dr. Vicky Persons. I remember one day talking with her, and I probably said something that was foul. And one of the things she said was, you know, hey, you can't talk to me like that. And it was probably my tone or something. And we weren't arguing or anything like that because I love her. But it probably came off in a really bad way. And it kind of took me aback because I was like, wait a minute, did she just like check me? But what she taught me, and this was early on in our friendship, what she taught me was that, yeah, she has the right to tell people or help correct people on how to talk to. She wasn't nasty or anything like that. And I listened to that and I learned from that. Yeah, I have permission to help people talk to me or treat me a certain way. So sometimes we have to pull people's coat. Sometimes we have to educate them, right, on how we want to be treated and how we want to be spoken to, because not everybody comes from the same household or environment where what we place high value on, they may not. But I think in terms of our self-worth and wherever we get it from and how we relearn our worth, we take that into relationships, we take that into work, right? My first job here in Chicago, no, not my first job in Chicago. My first job in Chicago, I was in corporate. I went back to school, I went to advertising school. And when I came back here to Chicago, I was engaged at the time. I come back to Chicago and I'm looking for a job in the ad business. Ultimately, I get hired at Leo Burnett Advertising Agency as a copywriter. But before that, I had my portfolio, I was shopping around all of Chicago. And I remember my first job offer was less than my first job out of college. And I'd been out of college for 4 years. So my first salary, you know, was pretty good. So I'm not going to come back having experience, although new to the advertising game as a copywriter, and take a whole lot less. So I get this, but I need a job, right? I need a job. I'm not working. I'm engaged. I came here. I'm preparing to get married. I need a job. And I've been looking for a couple months now. So the offer comes, my first offer. And I'm like, well, damn, this is less than what I was making when I got out of college. But I hold tight. I don't say no, I just hold tight. So I get to Leo Burnett. I go through, you know, all the levels. I get an offer. Now, I'm new to advertising. I may have corporate experience, but I'm new to advertising. So they come in and they offer me a salary based on when they bring their recent graduates in on, which is only a little bit more than my first offer. But I'm wrestling with this because I know what my worth is. I'm bringing corporate experience. I got marketing. I got marketing, promotional, sales experience. I got all of this. And you want to give me what you bring your new hires in on? I pray, because I go to God with everything, every decision. I'm very connected to the universe and Him. And I say no. I call up human resources and I thank you for this offer. And I appreciate it. But it's not enough. And I reiterate what my worth is. I reiterate my experience. And I give her the number in which I'm looking for. And I asked for a moving bonus, a sign-in bonus rather, because I wasn't moving, but a sign-in bonus. And I asked for what I needed in terms of vacation. Like, I just laid it out. So she says, well, you know what? I'm going to have to call you back. I was nervous as hell. I don't know how. I can't even recall how long it took. It just seemed like forever. It seemed like months and months and months. Probably was like a day or two. When she called me back and said that they could match and they could meet my request. You're talking about a sister that, see that right there, confidence booster. That right there said just how I saw my worth, they saw my worth too. Because if they didn't see it, they wouldn't have hired me. And I was hired and I was making more than what they brought most people in on. I killed that game. But, you know, success breeds success. So we got to take sometimes baby steps. Sometimes we got to crawl, you know, sometimes they're baby steps, but we got to get there. And it's all about First finding out our own self-worth, and then figuring out, like, why do I feel like I don't deserve this? You know, I could have taken that, and then I was able to go back to that first job offer and say thanks, but no thanks. There's something in me maybe that could have said, yeah, let me go ahead because I'm desperate. Let me go ahead and take this because, you know, I don't have anything else. Faith was strong, but I also knew my worth. And I also knew and believed that if Leo Burnett didn't work out, somebody else would. And they would be able to pay me what I felt my worth was. And that's all about the confidence that we have to bring to the table. So it's a combination. Our self-worth is definitely going to be a confidence booster. And it's also the people you're around. So if you're around bullshit people who think that their worth is tied to a name brand, now he's making or she's making all the money, and you know, you're helping to fund that, then, you know, that's how you're going to think. But you got to, or if you're around people who think that just because they live in massive houses and their daddy or mama is so-and-so, and so that's their worth. So what happens then when they pull that rug from up under you? What happens then when you can't afford to buy this name brand? What happens when you get, you no longer can live in that house, or your mom and daddy cut you off? So your self-worth has to come from within. It cannot be an external factor. I'm going to wrap this up with this last thing. I sent my son to military camp when he was 12, 13. And one of the reasons why, as much as I love my son, one of the things that I realized about him was, and this happens to, it's not just him. This is anybody who's out there who has a 12 or 13-year-old son or daughter. It's probably happening maybe a little earlier, where society and their friends and just how they view, and they're really trying to figure out their value and their worth. It's all externally driven. And I could see that. I could see he's not a clothes person, but it was in what he wore, I mean, how his hair was styled, what places he went to. It was just all of this bravado, external. And so I remember asking him when we were going through this conversation about military camp with my husband and his dad. We were all having this conversation. And I said, so I'm going to ask you this question. Me asking my son, who are you? Who are you? And he didn't know what I was talking about. So his first answer was, I'm your son. I'm like, well, yeah, but who are you? Like, who are you in here? And he still wasn't sure, but he came up with some answer. And I said, well, you're going to go to military camp, because I knew that was a program that was designed to strip him of everything and then build him up. And it wouldn't be mama, daddy around. It wouldn't be anybody else around but him to figure that out. And I said, and when you come back from camp, I'll ask you that question again. And when he came back a month later, because he was there for a month, and I asked him that question, he was able to give me everything that I needed him to be able to know about himself that had nothing to do with anybody else. Not his parents, not his grandparents, not his godparents, not his friends, not the school he went to. He was able to tell me he was a man of God, a young man of God, that he was a person who believed in this, and he was a person that could do that. He had belief, he had faith. He was someone who, he was able to answer all those questions, because those are the things that are going to carry you through life. Not your car, not your clothes, not your house, not your friends, not your connections. That shit can all disappear tomorrow. And how do you then find your worth? So women who are contemplating divorce, women who are trying to figure out whether they stay or go because they're tied to this man or this woman, men who are trying to figure out this job, you know, what's my worth? Am I tied to the salary that I'm making? Am I tied to the house that I live in? Am I tied to the title? We as people have to figure this out, and we have to be careful where we get our worth from. Who determines it? Right?